Welcome to the Political Vigilante, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Graham Elwood. We are joined by a friend of the show, member of the NFL, and also host of the Takeover, Justin Jackson. How you doing?
Great intro. Those are also harder than you think.
Number 22 in the program, number 1 in your hearts, ladies and gentlemen, Justin Jackson. Well, I wanted to bring you on the show. The first thing I wanted to talk about was what happened Friday. Major League Baseball announced they're pulling their All-Star game from, it was supposed to be in Atlanta this summer. The All-Star game's usually in mid-July or whatever. Now, apparently, it's being moved to Colorado. And this is in response to the passing of this very racist, undemocratic voter law in Georgia. And it's significant for a lot. I mean, you and I, the last time you were on the show, we talked about how financial pressure really can work. It worked when the pressure was put on FedEx, who then pressured the Snyder, the owner of the Washington Redskins, to get rid of that racist mascot name. And now, like, he wouldn't do it for 15 years. $500 million got pulled off the table. All of a sudden, he's like, "Yep, Washington Football Club."
Yep, exactly. We're not even going to give it a name. Just football team.
Done. That's it. Generic. So, I mean, how first of all, as a professional athlete, how do you see this? Like, I mean, it's pretty significant. And then also, I know it's a ways away, the NFL season, but have you heard any conversations about the Falcons maybe not playing there if this bill is still on the books come September?
Let me start with the second question first. And I personally have not. Right now, I know they're negotiating what our off season is even going to look like. So right now, we don't even know if we're going to be virtual, we're going to be in person, what day, time, we don't know any of that yet. So I know that's being talked about a lot right now. So I have not heard anything about, what the NFL will be doing with Atlanta. Obviously, I don't think the Super Bowl is there. I think it's because it was the All-Star game, right? That's what the MLB moved. So they have control over that, as a league. I don't know there's nothing that's there happening that's like a league event this year. I don't think, like the Super Bowl or some type of event or whatever. So I don't know what the NFL as an entity is gonna do. Now what the players and the team in Atlanta is gonna do, they obviously have more control over that over there with the Falcons. So I'm not sure if that's gonna stay in house. I'm not sure if that's gonna be announced, if they're even thinking about it. I don't know anyone that plays for the Falcons, so I really don't know. Okay. But that is something that when we talk about, something like the boycott of the playoff game, that brings, and with the NBA, like that brings so much attention. And like we said, when you disrupt capital for even 1 second, that's when you get the people in power to start giving you stuff, right? And so that's why I think that's, awesome to, put pressure on the city, on the legislators there. And because they obviously have a lot to gain from having the All-Star game there monetarily. And once again, the MLB is now saying we're going to move our game out of here. And that's a lot of money, a lot of vendors, a lot of a lot of capital that's at that location. And when it's moved or it's changed because of a law, that that starts swaying people, the people that have the power, because it's swaying the people that are losing money. So we'll see. I know I heard a lot of people pressuring Delta, the airline company, because their headquarters are there to do something too.
Same with Coca-Cola. We should add too. It's been Coca-Cola and Delta both have headquarters in Atlanta, and they're getting a lot of pressure, which this is significant because
it's very effective.
And it's very effective. And also we should add, I forgot to mention, it's not the Major League Baseball, because of the success of the NFL draft. The NFL has done such an amazing job, and the NBA over the years, of making their draft an event, like you talked about.
Right,
like
exactly.
The NBA would do that lottery thing, and the NFL, it's become an event. Now the NFL has been moving that to various cities. Major League Baseball is also pulling its draft. No one's ever cared about Major League Baseball's draft, but now they're seeing, like, look, hey, these other leagues, the NFL and NBA, are making money off of their draft. Yeah. money off of our draft. So now the draft is getting pulled out of Atlanta as well, is my understanding.
Wow. That's
which is
big.
again,
That's a lot. That's a whole,
lot
like you said, whole nother event that brings a lot of capital to that city.
Yeah, and since companies like Delta and Coca-Cola, I don't know if they have league-wide sponsorship deals with the NFL, but I know Coca-Cola buys a lot of ad time with the NFL.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure Delta buys some ad time.
Definitely.
So like, how do you see this playing out, and what conversations have you had just with teammates or other pro athletes that you know about this?
As far as the first question you asked, well, actually, let me start with the second one, because I have talked to a few teammates about it. And I always think, like, if we have to have some type of coordination, within the NFL and our players, kind of similar to what we did in the beginning of the season when it came to the George Floyd protests and releasing all the players coming together. A lot of top players coming together, release a statement. We have to have that type of stuff for these type. You have to have a lot of coordination to bring this together. And I think we need to do a better job. And I personally feel like I need to do a better job of reaching out and getting people together within the league who feel the same way, so we can start pushing some things like this, because this is where you make real change, like you were saying. And so I feel, and I actually have a call coming up pretty soon with some other players that lead the social justice committees or whatever on their teams. And I feel like if we can come together and I can talk to someone on the Falcons, right, then I'll be able to be like, hey, this is something that they're pressuring Delta, they're pressuring Coca-Cola, like they're pressuring all these people. And if you guys come together and pressure the owner or pressure your team, because you're also something that brings a lot of value and capital to that city, that might be the turning point. You know what I mean? So that's something I'm definitely going to be pursuing more, because there's a lot more people that feel like we're on the side of the working class. Because you remember, a lot of people in the NFL come from very working class neighborhoods, very poor neighborhoods, right? And so there are a lot of people that feel that way because they understand, what's going on in their communities and how it's hard to vote. It's hard to, there are all these voter registration laws. You actually feel that within your communities, right? Because you don't see any change happening.
Yeah, I mean, they see it firsthand. They see the long lines. They see lack of polling places.
Right.
They see all that. They've been seeing this for years. Right.
And so if you get those people to come together who feel the same way, we can actually start coordinating some stuff. And so that's something that I'm definitely going to be working on coming up soon here, because I think it is really important, and I think we are seeing the type of real effect it can make. And so and it's also funny that we feel like we can pressure corporations and as like a workaround, instead of just directly pressuring the legislators and saying, no, we're just going to vote you out. You know what I mean? That's also something that I think that's really interesting. But we'll see if, all that money moving out of Atlanta is going to have some type of effect on those Georgia lawmakers, because, they want to get reelected, right? They want that power. They want to keep that power. And so if you can actually affect, the people or in their districts, losing out on that money, then they're actually going to be like, okay, now I'm mad at this legislator. Now I'm going to pressure this legislator. We're not going to vote for you. And that's how you make it happen. So we'll see. I don't know, but I'm hoping it's going to make a change.
Well, I think it's great that you're like taking the initiative within your league to reach out. And I think it's fantastic. Like you say, a lot of NFL players came from very working class backgrounds and have seen this sort of voter suppression
Yep.
take place. And now here's just a very flagrant law. You can't give somebody water who's waiting in line to vote. Like, what the, I mean, good God, if we heard about China or Russia passing this law,
Right.
Americans would be losing their mind. Oh God, look how awful this dictatorship is. But in Georgia, hey, well, they got everyone has a chance. Man, I'm so tired of it. But like, you bring up such great points because, and I think, you know, using your position and reaching out to someone at the Falcons. And because let me tell you something, having traveled around this country, and I'm sure you know this, if you pulled the Falcons out of Georgia, all those lawmakers would be fired. Like you took football away from, they would go like, I don't care. Rednecks would be like, oh, I don't care. Change the law, man. They're taking away the football team. Like it would like quick
immediately.
So I think it's significant, and it's another opportunity because, like, you know, we talked about last time you were on the show when the NBA, you know, sat out a playoff game for 3 days, and then Obama came in. We were very much disappointed in that, right. But some significant change did come out of that. I mean, if you look at how Kaepernick was treated when he took a knee, whatever it was 5 years ago, he was blackballed. Now you can take knees. There's social justice committees on each team or whatever, you know, like you are allowed that voice. And yes, the owners only care about money, and they're hoping they're just going to let people take knees and put Black Lives Matter. and they're hoping that's it. That's
right.
But I'm telling you, if the Atlanta Falcon team says, even if just the players go, we're not playing until this law, we're done.
Yeah, even if it's a single game, like one single one, you know, immediately they're like, okay, we need to start rethinking some things.
I would love to know the actual number of like what one home football game in any NFL city generates. Not just in the physical, you know, ticketing, you know, concessions revenue, parking, all that stuff, the local businesses that get affected. And then the TV revenue, even if it's just a regular season game that's just played regionally, that's not even a nationally televised game, then the numbers go up. I'd love to know what one NFL home game generates revenue wise.
Right. It's definitely, I mean, you think about it, some stadiums have 80,000 people, and some of those ticket prices can be unbelievable. It depends on the city you're in. Like Green Bay, you know, that could be like $1,000, you know, for one ticket. I mean, you're talking about tens of thousands of tickets, not to mention the $10 concessions for a burger, right? Like, not to mention the parking. I mean, just everything. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And like I said, when you disrupt capital, that's when things really start to change. And so, yeah, like I said, I think the Falcons, that could be, or like the Braves or the Hawks, like that could be the tipping point, you know, that could be like getting over the hump of, you know, they're feeling pressure from Delta, Coca-Cola, but they feel like they can withstand it. But no, you bring in a sports team from that city, oh no, it's over.
It's over. So. And there's a lot of potential here. I mean, I don't want to throw more work on your plate, but just what's popping into my head of like, as you get the NFL and you start reaching out to the Falcon players and stuff like that, there's a potential to then maybe reach out to the Braves, reach out to the Hawks, reach out to the Atlanta Dream. I mean, they just got rid of Katie Leffler, that racist owner of that WNBA team.
That's true. I forgot about that.
So it's like, I think the Dream would be ready to, they'd be ready to walk too. If like every pro team is walking until they get rid of this law. Yeah. And it sends a message. Any state wants to try this nonsense. Right. We'll walk. Like we'll walk. I mean, unless it's a state that doesn't have pro teams or whatever, but it shows, and it also shows not just professional athletes, but just Americans in general who are fed up with these kind of laws and want real change to happen. What a financial boycott. Protesting in the streets is great. And I'm not telling people not to do that or whatever. Peaceful, nonviolent protest, it can be very effective. But man, nothing moves it quicker than the dollar. Nothing.
That's so, you know, on point. And I think it also, you know, when people get upset about electoralism and, people that are kind of bowed out of electoralism. This shows something that's not really in electoral politics, but can affect electoral politics, And sometimes it's like you're sitting there and thinking, are things going to change in 2 years when there's more progressives, or 4 years when there's more progressives? Well, no, there's things that can change right now, and it doesn't take us electing in more people. It just takes us coming together. And like you said, putting pressure on these corporations, because let's be honest, that's who the politicians listen to anyway. So let's put pressure on them, because obviously these representatives aren't representing us, or they're not even scared of screwing over half the population, mostly black city like Atlanta. They're not even scared of that. They'll do it anyway. They'll sign it behind closed doors. I mean,
and arrest a black woman who was a legislator. Like, that was insane.
Right. Exactly. They'll do that. Like, so the only money they speak, or the language they speak, is money. So I think it's kind of a good strategy. Outside of electoral politics, obviously has been used many times in the past. Like the Montgomery bus boycott, and the apartheid boycotts and all that stuff. That's when you saw the needle actually move kind of over that hump that I was talking about earlier. So I'm excited. There's a lot of things outside of electoral politics that are happening. I know I want to cover a story from like these DoorDash drivers who like aren't accepting. All of them are having a pact to not accept any order that doesn't pay like $4 or $5. And so it's actually tricking the algorithm into giving them higher payouts or something like that. It's crazy. And it's like really working, because they're getting thousands and thousands of, like, that's what you have to do. You have to do stuff like that, because the California legislature isn't going to do anything. They're actually going to institute Prop 22 to make you make even less money. So at this point, it's like we have to come together, mutual aids, all that type of stuff. Like, that's what we have to rely on, because you simply cannot rely on the government. You can't do it. If you rely on them, they'll literally let you die out in the streets. Like, they don't care.
Sure. Well, it's such a great point that you're bringing up, because DoorDash, look, they're a big Silicon Valley tech company, so they're going to buy everybody in Sacramento. That's how you get that awful Prop 22. Right. But you're right, man. I love hearing this, because it's going to take creative stuff like that. It's like, look what Wall Street Bets did.
Yeah, Wall Street Bets, exactly.
Like, that was the most revolutionary thing that's ever happened, and nobody got injured, nobody got arrested. Same thing with DoorDash. They're just tricking the algorithm. And it's like, that's how you got to get together and do this. And I think it's awesome that you're going to, help get the NFL on board with this, because that's what it's going to take. I mean, I'm so down with that, because there's more of us than there are of them. Let's just be honest. Yeah. They think they can do it because they've gotten away with it, but there's more of us than there are of them, and they need to be aware. They need to be afraid of us. Like, they
rely on the ignorance,
yes,
or the apathy that is born out of 20, 30, 40 years of watching these two parties do nothing for you, or out of the obedience to the mainstream media. That's what they rely on. And when things like this happen, where despite them being bullshitted by the corporate media, they still understand, no, this law is BS, right? Or Prop 22, that's BS. What we're gonna do is we're gonna come together and actually increase our own wages, right? So like that's what it's gonna have to take, because we have progressives and pundits talking about, we need to wait 2, 4, 5, 6 years. Well, no, there's some people that are in a hurt right now that need help today. So I think it's great. I think it's great, and I think, like you said, Wall Street Bets and just kind of it's almost like guerrilla warfare, just to get a redistributive type of policy that helps helps the masses and only hurts billionaires.
Yeah,
that's what it's going to take at this point.
It's great, because let's say let's not. Now's not the time to boycott. Wait till we get more progressives in the Georgia legislature. Oh, no way. They'll pass 10 more awful laws. Like, no way. Like, wait till the next cycle I'm done waiting, man. Like, this DoorDash, Wall Street Bets, and now boycotting, and to see the Major League Baseball do this, I was like, great. Now here's the groundswell that kind of were hoping for last summer that didn't take place, but enough people are like, nope, that this is what it's going to take. So I'm glad that you're going to be part of that. And, let me know if there's anything, whatever.
I'll let you know what comes out of that. I'll let you know. I'll have to come at you. I'll have to bring you on my show. We'll talk about it. Dude,
whenever you want me on your show, I'm there. Gentlemen, you're watching The Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. I'm joined by host of the Takeover, Justin Jackson, also a player with the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Jackson. Justin, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. No tech difficulties at the beginning of this segment. We're good.
So, yeah, knock on wood. So we were just talking about Major League Baseball pulling their All-Star game out of Atlanta in protest of this racist voter law in Georgia, but some other significant things we were talking about in that segment, but also the last time we were on the show about we got to look more locally. And so I wanted to bring up, I went to high school in Evanston, Illinois. You played college football in Evanston, Illinois, and they just passed the first ever reparations bill. And, some people are saying it's not perfect or it doesn't have this or that, but I wanted to at least first, I'm just going to read the outline of the bill and then we can talk about it because it's significant. It's significant just that this happened. Evanston, Illinois becomes first U.S. city to pay reparations to Black residents. The Chicago Suburb City Council voted 8-1 to distribute $400,000 to eligible Black households. And they're going to distribute $400,000 to eligible Black households. Each qualifying household would receive $25,000 for home repairs or down payments on property. The program is being funded through donations and revenue from a 3% tax on the sale of recreational marijuana. Well, look at that. The city has pledged to distribute $10 million over 10 years. Qualifying residents must either have lived or been a direct descendant of a Black person who lived in Evanston between 1919 to 1969 and who suffered discrimination in housing because of city ordinances, policies, or practices. So for those of you folks watching who don't know, Evanston, it's the first suburb north of the city of Chicago on Lake Michigan, and it was one of the first cities to allow after the Civil War, rather, when Southerners, both Black and white, but freed slaves could come up there and live and work. But it wasn't this utopia. There was a lot of redlining that had happened in Evanston, and so having, gone to school there, how do you view this bill? I mean, obviously overall it's a big win, but how do you view, what was your first reaction to it?
I was surprised. Like I said last time, I remember I saw like there's a reparations, it was like trending on Twitter or something. And I was like, okay, let me like look into this, like what's going on. And then I saw it was Evanston, Illinois. And that's my first thing. It's like Evanston, like where I went to college. Cause like you said, there's a lot of diversity, especially at Evanston High School, but it's heavily redlined. You can tell, like I'm saying, like literally an underpass where it's like nice, the colonial type of Evanston houses. You go under this underpass on Green Bay Road and all the houses literally on the next street are, you could tell, like much lower value, much lower quality immediately. And that's obviously where the Black and brown people live. And so it's heavily redlined. So, I didn't really know exactly what it like leaned politically or how the politics were in Evanston, because when I was in college, I wasn't paying attention to politics as much. So I just didn't expect something, progressive and on the spectrum of that we exist on in this country. This is a progressive bill. Now, of course, there are people that saying it's not nearly enough. And of course they're right. It's not nearly enough. Like I think in one of the articles it said, well, there's up to $25,000 you can claim. And so there's only 400,000 being distributed. So that's only 16 people. Right. And so that's obviously nothing near like a true reparation for, a Black family. But they're actually, it's almost like the stimulus check, right? Where people were just happy getting $600. There was people that were just happy with it because they're so used to not getting anything. Right. And so that's how you have to look at these things in the spectrum of our politics. This shows that, yes, like, so when people are talking about reparations, right, when it comes up in a primary or something, and they're like, oh, we need to make a committee, and then that committee needs to make another committee to see what, if it's possible, like, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's bullshit. They had, a type of reparations bill in Evanston already. It exists. It can happen. It needs to go much further, right? So something like that can shift the Overton window. And so I think that's why it's important that bill was passed, because it's almost like BLM, right? Like in 2017, 2018, you wouldn't see nobody, like even liberals talking about BLM in a good fashion, right? But then 2 or 3 years later, the Overton window on that particular issue has shifted so far where you have, white liberals in the suburbs or wherever saying like they support BLM. And so that's what we need to use this bill of like a reparations type bill as, where we say, no, this is possible. Let's bring more people into the fold and let's make it more progressive.
I think that's a great point. And I think it's also not a small thing to look in this bill of like, not only is like, okay, it should be doing a lot more, but it was passed. So let's build.
It was passed, right.
But it was passed. But also, I think it's significant that the money to fund it is coming from recreational marijuana, because that is, I don't smoke weed, but I think it absolutely should be legalized. I mean, and for this reason, this of many reasons. And you look to like, and this is what you're talking about. So you can go, well, let's look at Colorado. Now they've had legal recreational marijuana for several years now, and it's helped. They've got more funding for schools and social programs and stuff like that. And somebody locally might say, point out this or that flaw or discrepancy, but overall you go, it's legal, they're taxing it, and they're getting this influx of tax. It's helped Colorado's tourism industry. I mean, so you can sit there and go, well, to the how are we going to pay for it crowd, which is a legitimate, in a local level, that is absolutely true. Local governments don't have a federal reserve that can just print money. So
they have to be budget sound, actually.
You got to actually know how this bill will get funded. So you could say, well, look what Evanston did. Recreational marijuana, they put a 3% tax on it. That's what paid for it. So it wasn't passed on to the homeowner or the average person. It's like, so, hey, I don't smoke weed, but I'm glad weed paid for that bill.
Right, exactly.
And because a property tax sticks it to working class people, all of that stuff can like hurt working class folks. So this is really this is significant. And the fact that it made national news, like I was talking to my brother who still lives in Evanston, he's like, wow, NBC was here and all this other stuff. It was a big deal.
And it's like, how can we can use that as like, how can we make it better? Right? How can we need to, this can be a pot of the money that goes towards like a reparations type. It's going towards Black households, etc. We can use this as some type of, prototype almost. Like, here's a first iteration of it. Let's get policy, wonks in there and figure out how can we do more with the marijuana tax, or how can we change it up or whatever. How can we get more or raise more revenue for it? So I think it's very important. I think it could be a first step. I mean, it needs to be a first step, and it just goes to show. I mean, even if it's just reparations, say you give every single Black person in the country $5,000, $10,000. I mean, that's not even anywhere near the amount of money that would be need to paid back for generations and generations and generations of wealth being suppressed and destroyed, right? But you need to start somewhere, right? So that's why I think this bill can be significant as some type of, early example of how we can do reparations, just like Germany did after the Holocaust, did a lot of reparations programs. We can do that too. It is possible, and it just happened in Evanston. Let's improve upon that and then make it nationwide.
I think that's awesome. Well, Justin, I know you got to run. Where can people follow you online and watch your show and all that?
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Sorry about those tech issues.
No worries, dude.
We're
I'm
gonna.
the last guy you need to apologize to. I have tech issues on the daily, so it's all good.
Actually, my earphones were working when I heard that you didn't turn on your soundboard. So of course they were working then, and then when you got your stuff working, mine shut off, and I'm like, oh my god, then the mic's not working, all type of shit. Anyway, thanks for having me on, Graham. Y'all can find me at the Takeover on YouTube. Actually, we'll be streaming at 4:30 today, so after Graham's show, everyone come on by. On Twitter, I'm at J_manprime21, and those are pretty much the two places y'all can find me. So yeah, appreciate it, Graham.
Awesome, dude. Appreciate the work you're doing in terms of within the NFL and your show, The Takeover. So everybody, when I'm done, go check out Justin's show after this. Thanks for coming on, Matt.
All right. Appreciate you.
We'll see you. Justin Jackson, everybody. How about that? And isn't it cool to hear that's such a great point that he made, rather than and it's not nitpicking, but rather than get all oh, this bill's not enough, to say, well, it is not enough. It does need to do more. It is only 16 people a year for 10 years, but let's build on it, to see the positive out of it. And then he's absolutely true. You say, well, they passed it in Evanston. They get it in Evanston and they funded it with weed money. So it can be done. Don't tell me it can't be done. They're doing it. And so it's yeah, it's just great. It's just great. It's really cool. It's cool to hear that he's working to get the NFL players involved politically. That's great to hear, man. That's why it's so impressive, because, and again, a part of it is because of what happened last summer, that there was a lot of, it wasn't as much change as we wanted, obviously, but there was significant change to where now, Kaepernick, they've apologized to Kaepernick. You can take a knee, and the Overton window, as Justin was saying, is switched to now where if he was trying to organize this a couple years ago, I don't know, he might have been shut down a lot harder, and maybe other guys in the league would be afraid to talk to him or something. Who knows? But now it's open for him to be no, we're gonna, and I'm excited to hear what happens when he reaches out and talks to some players on the Falcons and see what happens, because I'm telling you, if you're not an NFL fan or a football fan, that's totally cool. Let me just explain to you. Football in the South is a huge deal. And if the Falcons said, we're leaving, I mean, the football, and I'm telling you, rednecks would be get rid of that bill, man. We need the Falcons back. I'm telling you that would happen. So it's important. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at GrahamElwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.